It's done. Russiagate is over. This conspiracy theory, and that is all that it is. This conspiracy theory / smear campaign from the Democratic Party and Democratic establishment and the mainstream media has been debunked and discredited so many different ways that if you're still someone claiming Donald Trump's a Putin puppet, or that Russia got Donald Trump elected, and on purpose ignoring the mountain of rock solid evidence that proves the exact opposite, that proves all of this Russiagate nonsense never happened. And that prove, like Aaron Mate has just been saying for a year, 2 years, maybe even longer at this point, that Russiagate was nothing more than an establishment protection racket. And all the normie Democrats, the shit libs out there who are drunk off of MSNBC and Adam Schiff, and they are really convinced that Russia got Donald Trump elected. I don't know what to tell you. You got took. You got had. You've been bamboozled. Because all of it was bullshit. All of it was made up. And if you are someone on the left who claims to follow politics closely, and if you're someone on the left in new media, and your job is to analyze news and politics and current events, and not only did you can push Russiagate for 4 years now, still to this day you won't admit you're wrong. You're just a fucking liar. And nobody should trust you because you are on purpose ignoring all the evidence that proves you wrong. All while you smear and try to discredit the people who've been right about it this entire time. So I don't know how anybody can trust left new media who's still doing this bullshit. And yes, this is about the documents that up in the Russiagate, bullshit Russiagate investigation that Donald Trump declassified yesterday. And specifically, the bombshell to me was the former CIA director, John Brennan, who has made out like a fucking bandit off of Russiagate, got a job as a chief national security analyst at NBC, one of the major news networks, former CIA director, so he could just directly do his propaganda, all because of Russiagate. His notes, his own personal notes that he recorded after a briefing he gave to President Obama, these are John Brennan's own words here, quote, "We're getting additional insight into Russian activities," and this part's redacted, "alleged approved by Hillary Clinton, a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services," end quote. And this is from July 28th, 2016. And like Jordan Sheridan pointed out on Twitter, this is around the same exact time, maybe around the same week, that WikiLeaks published the DNC emails that exposed the corruption in the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party. And the reaction to not only discredit the WikiLeaks, but to also try to, quote, vilify Donald Trump, the strategy they came up with was to say that some Russian security services are interfering in the election, and there you go. Nobody talk about the WikiLeaks no more. Donald Trump's a Russian agent. And that narrative has stuck for 4 fucking years. So if you knew nothing else about Russiagate, if you knew nothing else about all the counter evidence that disproves it, if you knew nothing else about all the stories that were reported by mainstream media that later had to be retracted because they were fucking false, if you knew nothing about any of that, and you just read John Brennan's own notes, where he admits that this was all concocted by Hillary Clinton campaign, then there should be no doubt in your mind that this whole shit was made up. Donald Trump didn't win the election because of Russia. Like I said, it was just all an establishment protection racket. Hillary Clinton wanted to cover her ass. The DNC wanted to cover their ass. They wanted an excuse to not talk about the WikiLeaks, and they wanted an excuse to rationalize why they lost to a reality show fucking circus clown in a layup election. And Russiagate served both purposes. And then you had the added benefit that they all made out like fucking bandits and got book deals, and John Brennan got his spot at NBC. And there was a fourth benefit: they get to smear anybody on the left who disagrees with them, calling them a Russian agent. So, like I said, establishment protection racket. Before I get further into this, I've talked about this on the show already before. I need your help making this sustainable so that I can focus on doing the show, so that I could put out more content for you guys and not have to worry about making money any other way. So the good way for you guys to help me do that is subscribe to my Patreon account. You could do a one-time donation on PayPal. And I've recently started a partnership with Mask Up, where I get a special link to their website. And if you guys go to the website through that link and make a purchase, I get 20% of whatever you spent. So the masks are like $17. They have a sale going on. If you buy 3 masks, you get the 4th one free, and you get free shipping on all the masks. So if you're looking for a way to help out the show and you want like a product in return, that's a good way to do it, because everybody has to wear a mask anyway. So the links to all those things are on the About page on the YouTube channel. Now back to the whole Russiagate nonsense. So this specific story about John Brennan's notes and just Russiagate in general just make me so cynical and jaded when it comes to news media and politics. Because the lengths that they will go to lie to the American public, to do outright rank propaganda, and literally shape discourse in the country in such a toxic way, all for their own benefit, all for their own self-interest. It is stunning. And how the American public, I won't even say they weren't as bad as Rachel Maddow, but it's safe to say that it's a popular belief among Democratic voters, especially, that some parts of Russiagate was true, and that the Russian government did steal the election for Donald Trump. That is popular belief among tens of millions of people in this country, maybe hundreds of millions of people in this country. And it's all a lie. It was all a conspiracy theory. It was all made up to protect Hillary Clinton and to protect the Democratic establishment. And the part that is another part that is so maddening is that it just feels like no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter what evidence comes out, there is no changing people's minds on this. There's just no changing people's minds on this. So it's like talking to a brick wall. And the only people who actually want to hear the truth about this are the people who already know that this is all bullshit. This whole Russiagate saga has been a jarring experience to witness, because it was basically brainwashing on a massive scale. And I have not seen such widespread, consistent propaganda from the media pushing this single narrative on anything since the Iraq War. Nothing that is the only thing that can match the scale of propaganda of Russiagate. But at least with the Iraq war, people caught on and realized that this was bullshit. And they realized that we shouldn't be there. And they realized we invaded the country under false pretenses. I don't ever see anyone who pushed Russiagate and is still on the train to this day. I don't ever see them getting off. I don't ever see them admitting that they were wrong. I don't ever see them saying, wow, this was bullshit this whole time, huh? I don't think it's going to happen. Because how many different ways can this be disproven and discredited? From when it first started, and massive credit to the people in new media and on the left who've been dogged in pushing back against Russiagate. And I know that for me personally, I just didn't want to talk about this shit at all. I was like I said, this shit is maddening. I did not want to talk about it. And it was just frustrating. And like I said, talking to a brick wall, nobody is even interested in even hearing counterpoints or counter evidence. So I just really did not want to talk about it a lot of the time that this was going on. And I did at certain points, and I did certain videos about it, and I tweeted about it sometimes. And when I talked to people in my personal life, but it was just something that I really despised doing. So I give credit to the people who did a lot of work pushing back against it, because that is an important thing to do. To at least have some voices on the record pushing back against all the bullshit. Because you look back at this time, years from now, I mean, the voices of dissent will be few and far between. The narrative of and the overwhelming mountain of content, pro-Russiagate content that was produced, it will likely drown out most of the dissent, but at least there will be some dissent. So at some point in the future, when people look back at the Russiagate saga and they're like, what the fuck? The whole country just believed this shit. At least there were some people pushing back. Because if there was absolutely no dissent, the default will just be Russiagate's true, and you can't point me to any evidence that says it's not. So credit to people like Aaron Maté and Kyle Kulinski, Jimmy Dore, Nico House. The list is few and far between. Michael Tracy. I mean, he irks the shit out of me sometimes with some of the shit he's saying now on Twitter, but he was very vocal against Russiagate. Ben Norton, Rania Khalek. Those people pushed back, and the whole time that it was going on, they keep putting out evidence that disproves the stories that the media is pushing, that disproves the narrative in general, and water off a duck's back. You have Bill Binney. When all of this first started, I remember years and years ago, feels like a century. When all this first started, Jimmy Dore had Bill Binney, who was one of the top coders at the NSA. So, and he was one of the people who built the spying apparatus of the National Security Agency. So he came out and said when this first started, if this actually happened, if there was some coordinated effort between the Trump campaign and the Russian government to do some type of interference in the election, there would be a record of it. The FBI, the NSA, or the CIA, somebody would have had a record of it, an email, the phone calls, text messages. There would be some record of it because our government is illegally and unconstitutionally spying on everybody in this country, and the CIA is definitely spying on everybody outside the country, definitely anybody part of a foreign government. So if this whole conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian government happened, they'd have the rock solid, irrefutable proof, emails, texts, phone calls, whatever it is, and they would just make it public. And they would just put this shit to bed and there would be no doubt. But months into this, and Bill Binney said nobody's produced any shred of evidence of any communications. From there, even if you were on the fence about this, that should have raised a red flag for you. Because here, till this day, 4 years later, still not a shred of evidence of communications that prove that there was some type of collusion. None of that. Then you get the Mueller investigation. 2 years of bullshit. Every single interview that they do and every single document that they subpoena is broadcasted on the mainstream media 24 hours a day, as if it was the most important story of our lifetime. And the walls are closing in, like Cenk Uygur says, tick, 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 tick. Oh, they're going to get Trump now. They're going to drag him out in the White House in handcuffs because he was working with the Russian government to steal the election. And all of this shit, Mueller report comes out. Oh, what do you know? They found no evidence of collusion. They charged nobody in the Trump campaign with any sort of crime of working with the Russian government to steal the election. The only crimes that they charged people with were ancillary crimes that had absolutely nothing with Russian collusion, like Paul Manafort. It was just regular old corruption from a swamp creature in Washington, D.C., who's been corrupt for his entire career. And they just found, they turned over the first rock they could find and found a bunch of instances of money laundering and tax evasion and tax fraud and all that shit, bank fraud. So that's what they charged Paul Manafort with. And then the other charges that they had from the Mueller investigation were bullshit. Russian troll farms. Oh, they made some memes and posted it on Facebook and they called that election interference. Or the people who hacked into some of the voter registration, but they couldn't do anything with that. They just had the list of people who were registered to vote in certain precincts. And then they charged them with that and acted like that was Russian collusion. So if you look into the Mueller report, you look into the Mueller investigation, they got nothing. There was no proof of Russian interference. There was no proof Russia installed Donald Trump as president because it didn't happen. You had the full force of the U.S. government, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and they're led by the respected, square-jawed Robert Mueller, and they ain't come up with shit. So when the Mueller report came and it didn't have anything that proved collusion, everybody should have got off this bullshit. That didn't stop them. There was also with CrowdStrike and how they were the only ones who looked at the DNC servers, because the claim was Russia hacked the DNC's emails and gave them to WikiLeaks in some coordinated campaign with Trump to help Trump win. That was one of the root claims of Russiagate, right? Who looked at the DNC's computers? Who looked at their servers? Only people who looked at it was a private security firm paid for by the DNC, and they were the ones who said, "Oh, Russia did it." The FBI didn't look at it. They didn't make any evidence that they claimed that Russia did it. They didn't make any evidence public. And then when you find out later, oh, they never had any evidence that proved Russia did anything. It was just an assumption. It was just a hunch. So the CrowdStrike was bullshit. Then you also find out about how they got the Steele dossier, how it was paid for by Democratic operatives. They paid a foreign agent. He was a agent of MI6. They paid a foreign agent to get dirt on their campaign, on their opponents. The very same charge that they were leveling against Donald Trump. So the Steele dossier, which was also a catalyst for the entire investigation, was nothing but bullshit opposition research and basically smears from the Democratic Party that they handed to the FBI, and they acted like that was real evidence and started this whole investigation into doing wiretaps and subpoenaing documents and records and doing interviews and all that shit. Turns out the Steele dossier was just bullshit, paid opposition research. So every way you look at it, it was bullshit. And I'm not even going to get into all of Donald Trump's policies regarding Russia and how he was more antagonistic and more hawkish than even Barack Obama administration was. Giving weapons to Ukraine. Obama drew the line and said, I'm not giving weapons to Ukraine who are fighting against a proxy. He's not going to arm and fund a proxy war between Russia over Crimea in Ukraine. Obama drew a line at that. Donald Trump came in, gave the weapons to the white supremacists in Ukraine. When it comes to Syria, top ally of Russia, bombed the shit out of the Syrian government more than once, funded ISIS, funded Al-Qaeda, funded the rebels who are trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, which is the exact opposite of what Putin wants. Doing the same in Venezuela, trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government. Again, top ally of Russia. They don't want to overthrow Nicolas Maduro. There, Donald Trump is doing the exact opposite of what Putin wants. Donald Trump got the European countries to increase funding to NATO, an antagonistic organization of countries whose goal is to push back against Russian aggression. Donald Trump got NATO more money, but yet somehow he's a Putin puppet. The gas deal, he killed a multi-billion-dollar gas deal that Russia was striking with Germany because he wanted to do that natural gas deal with Germany. So he cost the Russian government billions of dollars. But still somehow he's working for Vladimir Putin. No matter how much evidence you present people that, hey, this is not true, Donald Trump wasn't working for Russia. No, it's like I said, water off a duck's back. And it's stunning because it's not like there's a lack of shit to criticize Donald Trump for. He is an unhinged, corrupt, lunatic politician. I mean, you go by any issue and you can write a novel of criticisms and critiques of Donald Trump. How he's a tool of the military-industrial complex, dropping more bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan than Bush and Obama combined. Let's criticize Donald Trump for that. Let's criticize Donald Trump for his disastrous environmental policy, having coal lobbyists and tools of the natural gas industry running the EPA. Literally, he basically dismantled the entire EPA, gutting all the regulations. He allowed coal plants to dump toxic waste in rivers and streams. Getting rid of emission caps for certain industries so they could pollute the neighborhoods where their factories are. Allowed more fracking. Okayed the Dakota Access Pipeline and other pipelines in the United States. So we can talk about how he's a shitty person, shitty president, shitty politician, and all this stuff. Many things to criticize Donald Trump for. But he was not working for the Russian government. He was not installed by the Russian government. Vladimir Putin did not steal the 2016 election and make Donald Trump president. Hillary Clinton lost that election to a fucking reality show clown. That's what happened. And John Brennan, the former CIA director's own notes, his own personal notes, where he says back in July of 2016 that Hillary Clinton was trying to stir up a scandal between Trump and Russia for their own political convenience. That should put this all to bed. I don't want to hear about this shit anymore. I don't want to see Cenk Uygur tweeting some shit about, this proves that Donald Trump's working for Russia. I don't want to see that shit anymore because I'm going to flip my lid.